What is going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here, back again with another live stream for you guys, and you are in for a treat. We have two star-studded guests with us. You will know them from the watch-alongs and all the contributions to We Are Tottenham TV in the house today for today's panel show. As it's the international break, I'm sure you're all desperate for some Tottenham content. We've got Brains McLeod in the house. How are we doing, Brains? Glad to have you back on the show, mate.
Cheers, Sam. I like the fact that your background's blurry, and then every time you wave your finger, your finger goes blurry. Don't wave that blurry finger at me.
You don't need to know how many fingers I'm holding up. It's all good.
It looks like you're doing something nefarious under that blur.
I've got a whole operation back there. You don't need to know what's going on behind me. Don't worry. Glad to have you on. And we got Josh King, Lord Pesty himself, in the building today. How are we doing, Josh?
Good. Trying to be positive today. I think compared to me and Gaz, I might be the positive one today. We'll see how it shakes down.
Cheers. Appreciate you guys coming in and joining the show. Look, it's been a mixed start to the season, I think it's fair to say, for Spurs. 3 games in, 4 points, 1 point out of Leicester, beat Everton 4-0, and we lost last week to Newcastle 2-1. There's been a lot of debate whether we're seeing improvements from Tottenham. Is this been improved Spurs we've seen in the first 3 games? Have we been unlucky, or is it the same fallibilities and the same frailties hurting us this season that hurt us last season? And are we not really learning our lesson? It's hard to really, when you watch the games, be too annoyed in terms of how we're playing. I guess maybe you could disagree with that, but Brains, this season, first 3 games of the season, look, it's a small sample size. It's hard to judge, broadly over 3 games. But seeing that as how, we ended last season poorly, really poor end to the season in terms of results-wise, and now going into this season, hasn't really started properly. If I would have offered you at the beginning of the season 4 points from these 3 games, I don't think you would have taken it. So how do you assess the first 3 games? Are you seeing improvements? A lot of people saying we're playing well, or how do you assess it? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so I don't there are positives, but I don't really see improvements. So I think ball domination is a fallacy, because when you are when you know a team's strategy is to dominate the ball, and you know that they're very proficient at it, and you know that they've got some great players. If you look at you got Madison, Kulusevski, Son, you've got players in it who are incredible players, quick touches, quick turns. So, and you know that they're deadly. Son's possibly one of the most deadly attackers in all of football, right? So every single football team has a strategic team, right? They have a technical department. So when Spurs, and I remember when we first saw Ange Ball at the start of last season, I remember everyone going, "This is the best we've ever played. This is the best we've played in years," right? And I remember having this thought in my back of my head, but again, I don't want to say it at the time, but I was thinking it I'd love to see how this develops. I'd love to see what happens when everyone changes their game plan against us, because we're so good at this. And it was a real kind of little, shut up, don't worry. Even myself, I was like, shut up, But then every single team, it doesn't even take you to play them for them to change their strategy. Their technical departments are sitting there watching the game, seeing how well we became in the build-up, seeing how we were starting to dominate, seeing how we were getting goals. So then straight away, they sit, and then the technical team presents footage and strategy to the manager, and the manager makes a decision with what he could do against your team. And so you start to see they all changed their game plan. They all decided to let Spurs kind of come at them. Now, it got more and more and more, because then you were starting to see teams were getting their flowers all the time against us. They were starting to pick us off on the counter. After that Chelsea game, and then after certain players are left out the teams, I think the big turning point is the Villa game, where it's like Spurs are going to dominate you so badly. They are going to create chances after chance, but you're probably going to win the game. If you just get the ball, if you break through their kind of mid-block and you carve through it, you're going to get flowers. You're going to win that game. And that has become now the dominant strategy for any team playing us. And the shocking thing is that Ange, no matter how many times we're seeing the same thing, he has not adapted. So you might say, with positives but not improvement, you might go, Look at Basuma. Actually, some of the stuff Basuma's doing is way improvements in his personal game. He's getting up, he scores that beautiful goal. Some of his turning is really good, but there's no real help for him. We try to get too progressive too soon. So he's getting caught out when he's so far up. He's trying to do really good things, and it looks good for him. But then he as a CDM, if he is going to play as a CDM, cannot be in the 10 space. So things like that, where you're like, well, that's a positive, but actually that is hellish. That's a hellish like downturn rather than improvement. And there's a lot of those. There is so many. You would say, look how much the defense contributing goals. You go, well, that's a positive. They should not be relied on to get goals. They really shouldn't. You should not be relying at this part of the season to have 3 or 4 goal involvements from our defenders. You really shouldn't, right? So, like, not in this style of play. Any other style of play, Conte, all them, love it, right? Defenders get up with their headers. That's not what this team's built to do. So what it says is you're seeing, like, that's positive, but you're going, no, this is an attacking team with a really good front line. You know, like obviously a player missing, that's a problem, but they're not getting goals. And then we're relying on defenders coming up. And then, you know, when Gary Neville said Pedro Porro cannot be playing there. He could not play his fullbacks like this. And everyone went, shut up. And showed him. And it's like, well, what we've ended up seeing is that Gary Neville's right. Fullbacks cannot be in 8 zone and then into the half space. And then as soon as we get caught, we are dead. And then we start to see that a lot more. So improvements, not really. You're seeing teams have found out the style of play. Ange hasn't adapted. Is Ange watching tapes of teams? Like, are we trying to come up with something new? Like, we lose momentum in a game. I mean, look at when the goals come. We're dominating the team. We are dominating teams. And then a goal comes, and then we fall apart for, you know, we get to halftime, luckily, and then we have a little bit, you know, another goal comes. And that's the game gone, you know. So we saw that a lot last season. And so we're seeing the same things. It's worrying. I think certain players' heads are kind of out of the game. You would say, at least last season, you would say, when we have Romero and Van de Ven, we are at least solid at the back. No one's making like crazy, stupid decisions, right? But in 3 games, we've seen Romero run right past, I'd say, a world-class striker. He's a little bit older, sure. But Vardy is a killer in the box. He runs right past Vardy. In the Newcastle game, he goes on a walkabout that's crazy. He doesn't even get back. And bang, there's a goal. He's on the halfway line for one of the goals. Body straight forward. As a defender, you're always turned your shoulder because you always have to be ready to go. He's just clocked out. And so what you're seeing is it's not that Romero is a bad player. It's that Romero his mind is going, I've got to do something because this is shockingly bad. We are not a defensive team. We do not train defense. So you can see that Romero's kind of game's falling apart. He's out of shape sometimes. They're not training defense. And so sometimes he's going, I'm going to go and win this game. I'm going to go do something. And it's like, buddy, that's just not what you need to do. I know you've got a lot of heart. But this is, so those are the things where I'm saying these are not improvements. These are actually, what I'm seeing is some of our defenders' minds are gone. They're not sticking to a game plan. They've lost it. They're just going on like kind of solo missions. And so I see the defense actually being worse than it was, you know? And if Dan Deven's out,
it's... You say our defense is worse than it was, but, you know, if you look at I know you know you don't look at stats. You don't like stats. But if you do like
with something bigger than stats today, son.
All I'm saying is our defensive metrics compared to last season are actually much improved. If you look at this, is the amount of expected goals teams have conceded this season. We're the 4th lowest in the Premier League so far. So it's not like we've conceded a high amount of chances so far this season. We have obviously conceded good chances. You'd say 9 times out of 10, Vardy would score that chance against anyone. Same with Isaac with the goal that he scored as well. So I can't deny that the level of chances have probably been quite significant. But the fact that we are restricting opposition teams to not many chances, is that not a positive?
No, because that stat is a byproduct of team strategy being let them dominate the ball for 70% of the game. And then it's just pick your chance, because a really good team who knows who say they have a striker like Isak or some, that's a world-class player. You only need one chance in a game. Like, so who cares about how many chances you're getting? If you've got like good wingers who can cut open the team, you just need one or two and you'll win the game. And I think that's a sound strategy if you're coming up against Spurs, because I think right now any strong team who believe in their defense as well will go, let them have the ball, let them capitulate all day long. We'll just get 2 chances and win the game 2-0. So I don't think teams care about these stats.
Going to you, Josh, I've got a tweet here from Stitches CM Reacts. He says, I think we've been very unlucky. The only issue is finishing our chances. If we can knuckle down on finishing our chances, we win all 3 games we've played this season. I've heard a lot of people say this, after these first 3 games of the season, about we have had more chances than the opposition. Especially, as Brains said perfectly, the times we have conceded have been in the Leicester game and in the Newcastle game. Both of those games we conceded. At times we were probably most on top of the opposition. That's when we conceded both goals. So do you agree with Stitches that we've just been a bit unlucky and we just need to take our chances and win these games? Or do the problems for us not getting these results in the first 3 games, is it something deeper than just not taking our chances?
It's funny. I agree with a lot of what Gav said there, and also Stitches as well, even though they're contrasting.
No, I agree as well. With some of what he's saying as well.
Yeah, so I think it all boils down to, and it's funny, I'm usually not the voice of reason at all. I'm panicking, and I'm like making everything more pessimistic than it needs to be. But like, we're not going to be the finished article right now. What I will say, though, what I did disagree with is that there are clear improvements. We actually were not this good last season at controlling games at all. In fact, I know you don't like stats, but if you go back and look at the stats, we were conceding much more XG when we were beating like Bournemouth 2-0 and stuff like that. And when against Burnley, when we beat them, what was it, 5-2 or 5-3? We were actually getting lucky then.
I agree. I agree with that.
We have become a much more Ange team, I suppose. Like we do control games better, and I think the idea that the opposition team, their tactic is to sit back, take 20 shots, 9 or 10 on target, and pray that they don't concede. I don't think they're trying to do that. You could see Newcastle were actually trying to press us like they did last year, and they couldn't. We were playing out of their press. So I don't think that most teams are trying to sit back. Well, they are trying to sit back, but they're not trying to give us so much dominance that we're having that many shots. But we're just too good in that respect. The difference is we're not getting lucky in their box. Like, nothing seems to be falling for us in the right way. Our attack is probably the weakest part of our team, I believe, honestly. And also, we are still vulnerable. We are. Like, I do agree with that. Like, but I don't think we're as vulnerable as last season. It's just the points have made it that the fact we've only got 4 points has kind of microscoped it a bit more, brought a highlight to it. And I was thinking, like, I know Vardy's old and, past it, I suppose most would say. But, like, Vardy is like the old school version of Isak. And these are 2 players that, like, no Premier League team is safe from them. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to, like, hype them up and be like, oh, anyone would have lost to those teams or anything. But the fact that those chances have fallen to those 2 players is rotten luck. Do you know what I mean? It's bad. So, yeah.
But overall, they're playing though, right? You know that they're in the team. You would think that you just kind of say to your defenders, like, look, you're playing against world-class strikers today. They don't need 2 chances. You would think, like, don't run past one. Do you know what I mean?
You watch Arsenal, you watch City, you watch Liverpool. They all concede. I'm not saying they're as bad a chances, but you always expect when facing a Premier League team to concede some chances, 1 or 2 per game. our chances, our 1 or 2 per game that we've conceded. Go back and look at these 3 games. How many times do you remember the opposition hitting the post or a near miss or Vicario making an amazing save? It's not happening. They're literally scoring every time they get in. I know not literally every time, but there's been barely any major saves from Vicario or anything like that.
Do you know why something like that happens? When a team trains and they train to be well balanced, so that when attackers know that, look, we can miss chances today because our defense is so solid. I believe in them. So like that's how teams build momentum. And I think a big part of Spurs attack, they're so panicky. Because they know, like, this is front foot attacking football. We have to score goals. Oh my God, this should be simpler. And the chances actually do look easier now. That's one of the good things as well. And then I agree. That's a really good point, actually, because that would be something I would say. I've got a list of like positives, and actually in that is kind of something similar to what you're saying, because I think our press is way better than it's ever been. I think we recover the ball in the team's half, which is also another point of why a team can't like turn over the dominance in a way, right?
Yeah.
And I also just think I think the team is training this type of stuff so much, and that you can see it works. It's impressive, but then I think there's a lack of training in defensive stuff. And I think there's a vulnerability that even the attackers feel in the system that if we don't score, they're going to go down the other end. And I think that makes their chances, they snatch at chances, they panic in front of, do you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. It's a good point, but that's why I'm saying I think that our attackers feel way more pressure than an Isak, who's maybe going to get 2 chances in the game. You need to see if he takes one, it's less pressure on him.
Yeah, because we're having a build up of chances. Oh, that one didn't go, and that one didn't go, and that one, and then it's just like it becomes a thing. But
and
overall,
you just also once we still as soon as we all keep missing these chances, you get that sense of dread because you just know one chance the other end, and like they've got a good chance of getting goals.
It's in their heads as well.
Players are feeling the same way we are when we go. No, it's one of those days. The players are going, oh God, I hope it's not one of those days. It's like we all feel it, where other teams, I think they don't really feel that.
What I want to say though, I don't want to move on topic or anything, but like this is expected in the second season of a manager. Like we're not going to be the finished article, and I'm starting to look at it and just go, you know what, we are just based on performances, not results, and it can still go horribly wrong or whatever. But 2 years ago, end of Conte or Stellini, whatever, I did not expect us to have a team that could dominate games like this. Like I know any team in this league, we're going to have possession. Like even against City and Liverpool, I'm not saying that we're going to have more possession, but I know we're going to have spells in the game, and it just wasn't like that. So I'm happy to ride this out without going into another topic.
But Josh, just on that very fact you just said, as a question, would you then accept? Because I agree, we will probably have more possession than Liverpool and maybe even more of the ball than City, like the end game of last season. But do you think Liverpool are going to score 2 or 3 goals against us? And we're going to lose.
Just this following on from that question, Gav, this was what K Merdsey said. He says, we are conceding high quality chances and producing mediocre ones. Is there truth to that? Do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I wouldn't say. I think we're a little bit harsh calling them mediocre chances, the ones that we have. I think a lot of what Ange said is true. We've had a lot of chances to have easy chances, and we haven't sorted them out.
Mm-hmm.
Like those cutbacks to the back post from Brennan. I almost called him BJ. But no one's making the run, and we're doing things where like that last pass isn't quite there. So I think that like it's some. In fact, if I was Ange, that is what I would concentrate on. I would say like in training, I wouldn't actually be concentrating on the defensive stuff. I'd be concentrating on like.
Doesn't look like he is, Josh.
No, it does. Look, we look like we're controlling games more. Our set pieces are better. Do you know what I mean? What we really lack is movement in the final third that makes it so that our dominance is paid off. And if we had that, then we can start winning games 3-2, and then we start talking about the defensive line and this, that, and this and all that. But if Ange's key philosophy is to be an attacking team, we need to sort out this attack. I'd rather be drawing 3-3 at this stage than what we're getting now, which is like we're having loads of chances and not scoring. And none of them are like clear, high quality chances. So I think the key to us taking the next step and improving is nailing down that attack and making sure that we become more of a machine in front of it, more systematic.
I would say no team in the history of football is going to ever get success without developing an impenetrable defense. Like it's
City.
No, look, City have some of the best defenders on the planet. Like you actually rob fans and a team of those games where you just dig in and get behind the ball and you see out a 1-0 win. That's a part of football. That really is. It's beautiful. If you play in those games, there's nothing better. They're actually the better games of coming off the field, where you sat in as a striker and you sat and you just did your job for 20 minutes and you got the result. They're seriously rewarding. And I think if you're just trying to avoid that, you know, and I don't know why, because he is a defender. I don't know why he's so anti-defense. But I just don't think you can build something long term. You know, that even in this, that we'll get onto it, but the window that you don't even bring in any defensive strength. It just doesn't seem like our strategy in any way is built around building a balanced team. You know, right now we're kind of like dominating the mid to first part of their half, and that's great. But I still think if imagine you're an attacker in this team, and every session is about you getting better at scoring. Does that not tell you something mentally? Are you not going, oh man, I just wish we just focused, you know, on the defense for a bit? You know what I mean? Sometimes it just takes a little bit off you if you're constantly trying to drill, tapping the ball in from 2 yards. It's like there's a part of this is kind of natural, that you should be natural at this stuff. Like, why is it so difficult to, you know, balls bobble around the box and they don't come in and they come off your shin when you're just actually not confident? You might be playing amazing, and in training you might be knocking them in all day long. But in a game, when you actually go, look, we've spent 7 hours on the pitch drilling this one attack, you know, we better score 20 goals from it. Like it sometimes putting so much on the attack in training has an adverse effect in the brain. Sometimes it's like, well, get the defense working on some of this stuff. Like, why are we getting run like ragged every game? You know, so I think he's got it. I would be so happy if we're so extremes, right? We come from Conte where we just can't get a good defense out. You know, now we've got a good starting defense. Just make that stronger, man. For once in your life, if we could just have a team that has a strong defense, a strong midfield, and a strong attack, it would be so good. This team with Ange, if he built a strong defense right now, what Josh is saying is true. We would turn this domination into wins, or we would definitely not lose easy games. So that's why.
But in terms of the way we're playing at the moment, you know, the question is, are we seeing improvement? When you're playing the way that we are, in the sense that we're having, I think, on average, over 65% possession at the moment, we do seem to be, whether you think they're real high quality chances or not, we seem to be regularly creating chances against the opposition. Yes, we are conceding high quality chances, but we are limiting the opposition to very few chances. And if that does continue, is that not a pathway where you would say it will end up benefiting us? We are going to end up seeing the results come from that, because you can't continue to put the opposition under that much pressure and continue to concede that amount of chances and not start seeing the results come at some point, because we have the quality in the squad to start making those chances pay, especially when Solanke comes back into the team. Yes, when we concede that the chance we might get, we might concede 1 or 2 per game high quality chances, but if we keep playing this way, is this not a pathway where the results will surely come? And like, is this not a way of playing that is going to benefit us in the long way? Right now, maybe you could say, you know, we were either been unlucky or we're always going to drop points in those games considering the chances we conceded. But if we keep limiting the opposition the way we are and we keep dominating them in the way that we are, Is it not just going to come about that we will start getting the results? Is that not going to happen? Like, how is it not? Is this not how we want to see us play? We want to see us dominate. We want to see us limiting the opposition. So, like, what more can we ask for rather than apart from obviously the results? If we're just taking the performances in that context, is that not what we want?
Yeah, I don't know if Josh Rush want to go first there, but I would just say quickly, like, I'll ask you this, right? So, like, ideally, managers come in with a game plan of how to take one team to a place, right? And you need everything to kind of go your way and a little bit of luck and for things to kind of catch momentum, like it did in the first 10 games, right? So everyone's going, oh my God, Ange Ball is amazing. But I don't believe you can go through any kind of business, any kind of part of the world without some sort of, not plan B, but like, okay, the clever people see when something goes wrong. Like another way of wrestling momentum back in a game, right? So let me ask you this. If we go another 10 games and the same things are happening, because this is where it goes wrong, and this is why we're at this point of where it's quite shaky for Ange right now. It's easy to say, well, like, if the plan goes to plan, well, I'm a legend. And it's definitely, if we keep playing this way, it is definitely because you're gonna sharpen those swords so well. But if the fragilities never get worked on and you keep losing, how many games before the attackers give up because they're like, well, the defense are selling us out every time. The midfielders don't feel confident in it. Like the defense is going, a defender in this team could be going, this is bad for my career. Because it's not really Romero's fault. It's not really Van de Ven's fault when it goes wrong. So, but look, we're the ones who are going to get blamed for this. Like, classic example of last season's game against Newcastle. Van de Ven got unlucky with one of the slips, but none of the problems were his. He never created any of the problems. So he got claimed the fall guy, literally the fall guy, because he fell a couple of times. But so how many games do you watch this improvement, which it is, but this style of play, with giving no F's to defense, and
I want to jump in there. Look, you didn't quite say it there, but you kind of alluded to what a lot of people say, that Ange has no plan B. Ange doesn't change things. Ange has one way of doing things, and I do disagree with that. Like, he has principles, which is he wants his team to be on the attack. And he wants his team to control the game and dominate the game, which a lot of the great managers, they have those principles. That's what they are, yeah? When it comes to changes, I'm not saying he's perfect and he changes things when they need to. I think some of his subs are late and they should be done earlier and stuff like that. But he does change things. Like, he's done all sorts of things where, like, I remember City away in the 3-3 last season. We were totally getting dominated in the first half. And he changed us to a double pivot in the second half rather than it being a single pivot, bringing on Højbjerg. He does things like he tried Kulu with Maddison at Everton at home. How many of us were screaming, just play two attacking players in midfield when we're at home so we don't have those stupid... But what's annoying me about the fan base at the moment is they're not giving him any credit for the changes he does make. The changes to set pieces, which are clear at the moment, like we're not getting the same back post problems in games so far at set pieces because he's making it more man to man than zonal, although it is still a bit zonal. We are definitely he does make changes. Some of them are a bit slower, but yeah, I think you have to persist with this. I don't know what it'll be like after 10 games if it stays the same, but I don't believe that we would have the Everton game shows you that it can go right. It's not like we're 3 losses on the bounce right now. Do you know what I mean? We're about 85% of the football we've played, we are the team that should be winning so far. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, sorry, Sim.
But I was going to say, just to finish to answer those questions, how long, like how many games, if it was the same problem, same thing, same bad luck, even if you want to put it that way, how many of those games before you go, okay, maybe this is a bit of a naive style of football. Maybe it is a bit too fragile in the positioning of the CDM and how high the centre backs are. And there's no fullbacks; they're up as full tens.
I mean, that goes for any manager. How long do you give it before the results, if they don't improve? How long do you give it? And for me, I don't look. Obviously, I guess